This isn't about success for United fans. This is about being treated like mugs.
I would be amazed if nobody at Manchester United or Liverpool would have thought 2 weeks ago when launching the Super League, gosh, this match has the potential to be a tinderbox moment. You know, if we go through with this, a platform for fans to gather, to protest. So am I surprised that fans congregated yesterday? No, also because it was trailed all week in the media. So I don't think it is a surprise at all. I totally understand the strength of feeling. We know, a couple of people went too far, but I think generally, I think it was Carragher the other day said that it felt like a good day for English football. And, I think I'd be lying if I was to say that I felt anything other than that on the day watching it play out.
David?
Yeah, I think the momentum now is the most interesting thing of all, because it feels like a bit of a seminal moment. Now, it's easy to say that, and it's far more difficult to predict what will happen, how ownership views and actions may change, what role government has to play in this. And Ollie touched upon that in a really interesting and detailed piece. But it feels like the Super League has kind of been the tipping point. It's been the match that has lit the bonfire that's been building, piling up year after year, month after month. Like reading Ollie's piece, I sort of thought to myself, it's like when you're on a night out and you're going with the flow and you lose perspective of what's going on and that you should really go home and stop with this. And then you just have one more drink and you don't really think of the repercussions. It was like they tried it on with that Super League one more time to go one step further. Like they've become so detached from the reality and the feeling on the ground and the reaction. And that was really one of Ollie's main points. How on earth did they manage to underestimate the reaction? Okay, they didn't want to canvass fan opinion, player opinion, manager opinion, and they hid behind confidentiality reasons why they couldn't do that, and they've pledged to engage further in the future. But how on earth did they not realize the strength of the reaction? Maybe I didn't realize it would quite go this far, but this seems to have tipped things over, and now we are almost, it feels like the train has left the platform in terms of the fans, not the Super League. And I don't think there's any pulling it back from here.
The thing with the protest on Sunday, Ollie, though, was the Super League provided, or the Super League proposal provided the Manchester United fans with a platform to vocalize their opposition to the Glazers on a wider level, because the opposition to the Glazers is much deeper than trying to take the club into the Super League. It is the neglect of a ground. It is the, well, and it is the main, it is also not communicating with the fans. It is the arrogance that they can just own the club and never communicate to Manchester United fans. And most importantly, it is taking £1 billion out of a club that was self-sustainable to leverage the debt and, more than 1 billion maybe, but to leverage the debt and pay themselves dividends. And that's club money raised by commercial activities and fans paying season tickets. That's actually all the things that the United fans were able to protest about.
Yeah, it wasn't an anti-Super League protest. It was an anti-Glazer protest, same as the protest at Arsenal. But it needed that trigger to a catalyst to create a new wave. And there has been wave after wave of protest. I was there outside Old Trafford as a slightly terrified reporter on the night that the Glazers were brought there in an armoured van back in 2005, and that was. They were basically barricaded in by the fans, and there were really angry scenes. Then they had to be sort of pulled up, driven out by riot police through these barricades at the time. That kind of thing happened at the time. It was easily forgotten. There was the green and gold sort of campaign in 2010, which was at a time when United were doing really well. They just
that is a really important point, actually. When people say, "Oh, if United were in with a chance of winning the Premier League or in the Champions League still, they wouldn't be doing this." Well, yes, they did. They did do that in 2010 when they were doing well. They did it when the Glazers took over in the mid 2000s.
And
Fergie was there; they were doing well. This isn't about success for United fans. This is about being treated like mugs.
To underline Mark's point quickly before you come in, Ollie, I was at the 2005 FA Cup final in Cardiff, Manchester United on the verge of silverware with a brilliant team, including Rooney and Ronaldo. They were vicious that day. Pre-match, I was walking through it. The protests, the Glazer out, the burning of American flags, the green and gold. They started a new club, as you said. This is not related to success or failure, transfers or sales. It is related to an underlying discontent, hatred, call it what you like, that has now boiled over yet again, not as a reaction to the Super League, but that was the trigger point. Apologies.
No, it's. I mean, there's been, yeah, as I said, there have been waves of it. It hasn't been sustained protest at every game. It hasn't been chants at every game. But over the years, there have been waves of it. It's always needed a sort of trigger to, whether that's been financial accounts, whether it's been something the club have communicated or miscommunicated, or whether it's been, light shone on it by the media. It's sometimes been bad results, obviously. But this time, the trigger for the new wave of protests was joining the Super League or threatening to join the Super League. And the same at Arsenal. And we've had protests at Liverpool. We've had protests specifically against the Super League at Chelsea. Even protests by Manchester City fans who I think are eternally grateful to their owners and willing to overlook a lot of things because they're grateful for what the owners have done for their club. It's a very different ownership model to Manchester United. But in every case, there is anger. And I think it's fascinating and reassuring, really, that anger is being led by the fans of those 6 clubs rather than the 14 clubs or the 86 clubs or the hundreds of clubs or the thousands of clubs across Europe who've been left behind.
Your article, Ollie, says, what is clear is that those owners severely misjudged the strength of feeling against their precious Super League project and the arrogance and greed that fueled the whole ill-conceived venture. That arrogance just doesn't go away. So the obvious question is, what next?
Well, I think if the Glazers were the type to listen and succumb to popular feeling and fan power, I think Manchester United would look very different. 16 years on, I think they probably wouldn't have bought it in the first place. So whether this prompts any kind of softening at all in the Glazers stance, I don't know. I mean, there's been talk of supporter, of consultations with fans groups, etc. But is Joel Glazer going to listen? Is he even going to be part of those calls? It's unclear. Is Dan Kroenke going to? I mean, there's been lip service, I think, to Arsenal fans in terms of engaging on that level. But does anything ever change? Do they ever make decisions that make you think that they're listening? There were, in those various sort of half-hearted apologies or purse-clutching apologies that we saw from executives or owners over the last few weeks, you got the impression, oh right, well we misjudged that. We will learn from it. But they've been misjudging things for years. These owners, they've never learned. If they'd learned, they would not have gone with this thing which they knew that there would be a huge backlash against. They were prepared to live with the backlash, but then whether it's political pressure, whether it's political pressure prompted by fan pressure, whether it was sort of geopolitical pressure in one or two cases, they lost their nerve. They backed out. And apart from anything else, we know that they're stubborn men, stubborn businessmen, successful businessmen in some cases, but we know that they are also not very good at this. The Glazers are not very good owners at Manchester United. There are people who will say, look at Manchester United's commercial growth and say, yeah, that's roughly the direction every big club has gone in commercially over the last 15 years. but that they haven't invested. They've done well out themselves as owners, but they've not improved the business. I don't think they're a very impressive bunch, these guys. And I think if they listened to fan reaction, to media reaction, to ex-player reaction, to people on the ground in those clubs that they employ but don't listen to, I think it would be a different picture.